What is up, guys? Welcome to episode number 37 of Diggity, a video game podcast. I'm your host, Jeff James. As always, with me is the incredible, the unobtainable, the inventor of the pop, not the socket, just the pop, the figurine, the luscious Brody Fultz. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, buddy. How about yourself?
Good. You've got a lot of them behind you.
I have a few.
For those who are watching the video podcast and can actually see them, there's a billion of them, and it's brutal because you can't see behind the couch. But I mean, how many do you think you have?
Too many. I actually know how many I have. We're pretty close. It's like 200 and something. It's like 220.
Oh, boy.
It's too much.
You know, it's never too much. Following us on Instagram and Twitter at Diggity Podcast. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already. Our YouTube channel is Diggity Gaming. For those who are watching the video podcast right now, if you have not subscribed, what are you doing? Subscribe. Come on. Be a good person. To subscribe to the podcast, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Spotify, wherever you listen. We're there. It's awesome. And speaking of also awesome, guess what? Do you like to read, Brody?
I do.
I like to read too. Do you wish something would read to you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do you have something that could read to me, Jeff?
I do, and it's called Audible. My apologies. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible, and you can get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial by heading on over to audibletrial.com/diggity. That's Diggity. You can get access to over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, your Android, your Kindle, or your MP3 player. So, you know, you can get someone to read you something like the great book called Go the Fuck to Sleep before you're about to go to bed. By Morgan Freeman narrates that. So head on over to audibletrial.com/diggity and you can get access to that, and you can go to fuck to sleep. So
does he actually narrate that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Morgan Freeman narrates that one.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like, no, it's Samuel Jackson.
That makes a lot more sense.
He's like, go the fuck to sleep.
That's awesome.
Well, anyways, this is the Thursday show, so dude, hit us with the deals. Pass the savings on to us, bruh.
All right, man. So our first Diggity deal is Assassin's Creed Odyssey Standard Edition for $24.99 on Amazon for either Xbox One or PlayStation 4.
Damn.
And that is the physical copy. And then the next deal that I have for you is the Pokemon Let's Go Eevee bundle, which comes with the little Pokeball controller, right? Is available for $49.99 in store only at Target. So that is half off because it was $99.99. So that's a hell of a deal.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's so cheap already?
I don't know.
It's kind of perplexing because it's a Nintendo. It's a Pokemon game.
Yeah,
it's like a Nintendo game here. Sometimes like Mario Kart, like, hey, save $10, and now it's like boom, like this is the Pokemon. Never on sale.
Yeah, no, this one was kind of perplexing, honestly. When I first saw it, I started kind of diving into some comments and things like that to see kind of what was going on, and some people were saying that their store was not available. So it is definitely dependent on the store you go to, but if you can find it, that's a hell of a deal for sure.
No, absolutely. I mean, do you, with the Pokeball thing, do you enjoy it? Like, what's the actual? Is it just called the Pokeball, or do they have like some weird Nintendo-y controller name for it?
It's like the Pokeball Plus or something like that.
There it is.
Plus.
There it is.
I personally am not a big fan of it. I just don't use the motion controls when I play the game anyway. So I just use it handheld. That works good enough for me. But I know my son, he likes to use the motion controls. So
you don't use the Pokeball because you don't want to get carpal tunnel,
right? Right. I mean, even with my small hands, it is still extremely small.
So right into the news, there's a Black Ops 4 Blackout free trial starting on January 17th. So this trial will last 1 week, running until the 24th of January, and it'll be available on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So that's awesome. That's fantastic. I'm definitely gonna try this out. I haven't got into Black Ops 4 yet, so I'm definitely gonna be doing this. And
I was hoping
that
you
means,
would. That way we could play a few rounds.
Yeah. Ha. Woo. Are you still liking it?
I haven't played it much lately. We've been on such an Overwatch kick lately, so it's kind of
yes. We have to talk. Okay, let's get into that real quick because you made a post on the Instagram, the Diggity Instagram account at Diggity Podcast. Always got to plug it. Always see that right there. That's so natural.
Just kind of slide that right in. I like
Just slid it right in there. Yeah, you're like, I love this game and I hate this game.
Yeah. Which is about as true as it gets. I mean,
oh my God, dude.
Just our last 2 games that we played last night, like that last game, we marched the payload straight to where it needed to go, and it was nothing. I mean, it was a great game. We played amazing, and then the next game, we got our asses kicked. It was rough. It was painful. It was amazing to go from laughing and having a good time with it to completely just, all right, fuck this, I'm going to bed.
No, absolutely. I have so much fun with it. Like when the highs are so high, but the lows are so low in that game, man.
Absolutely.
It is so bad. Like it's, I feel like some of the characters are just a little OP. And like could definitely use a little bit of a rejigging. And the matchmaking system for rank is
interesting.
It's I don't think it particularly matches you up properly sometimes. I think sometimes it's just like, wow, you guys done pretty well. Let's just end this now. Like let's make you feel like shit.
Oh, you look like you're having a good night. Let's go ahead and ruin that. Yeah. It's you couldn't have put it any better. The highs are so high, but the lows are so low.
Absolutely. Next to that, dude, aside from Overwatch, what else have we been playing? Just Overwatch, right? This week?
Yeah, this week's been an Overwatch week, which is very odd for us because we haven't really gotten into it in a long time like this. Before that, we were playing a lot of Battlefield. But really, I mean, right now, as far as multiplayer games go, it's a little dry.
We'll probably get back to Battlefield because the Battle Royale mode will be coming out soon.
Yeah.
Get all warmed up. 12th?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Sounds right coming from me. Could be really wrong, though, also because it's coming from me. So I have no idea on that front. Let's continue on the news to what you got.
So 3 new games are being added to the 3DS Nintendo Selects library. The Nintendo Selects are generally it's a collection of games that are like $19.99 on a regular basis,
classics or whatever, right?
Right. Anything that's considered a classic of sorts. So the 3 games being added are Super Mario Maker 3DS, Majora's Mask 3D, which Majora's Mask is my favorite game of all time. So, but I already bought it. And Star Fox 64 3D. And those will be available soon.
I'm a little surprised at Super Mario Maker. Not because that it wasn't popular, because it was super popular. Like, I mean, a lot of people played that. A lot of people made so many. Like, that was on Wii U, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was huge when it came out on Wii U. And, I don't know.
I will say that I have heard that the 3DS one is not nearly as good as the one that came out on Wii U.
I would assume not, because I mean you can't do as much, and probably the controls in there are a little shitty trying to build a level out. But like, I don't know. I guess it's cool. It's a classic. I just don't really see it as a thing because you're kind of building your own game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
kind of weird.
It's basically if you liked it, you ended up loving it and had a blast with it. And it's one of those games where you go in and play, a bunch of people's other levels. So you could go online and download people's levels and play through them and stuff. A lot of people are really wanting one to come to the Switch, which or a version of Super Mario Maker to come to the Switch, which I think
Oh, it
would.
definitely will.
Yeah,
I
I
totally think
honestly
they
can't
will.
believe it hasn't happened yet, but
I can't believe they haven't ported it.
yeah, something. I never played it, so I don't
Oh no.
know. No, I never played it.
Oh, it's
Cause
interesting. I mean, it's a sandbox, right? I mean,
right,
you can do stuff, and then you can go try other people's levels online, which is cool.
right.
And then there's like they have like their own collection of levels as well
Hmm.
that are built into it. But I don't know. It was just kind of weird. Like you get like Majora's Mask 3D and Star Fox 64, and then which are well known IPs by them, and then you've got something that's like it's kind of like a create your own adventure, which I just found I don't think it's wrong. I just thought that was pretty interesting that that was added instead of like let's say like a Yoshi game or something like that.
Right. Especially given the timing. I mean, we don't have the Mario Makers announced for the Switch yet, but we do have a
Maybe this
Yoshi
is their
that's
last
coming out here
push.
soon.
Maybe this is like their last push on the 3DS stuff because we use Dead. Like we use
Oh
gone.
yeah,
There's no point even pushing Wii U stuff unless it's you know, basically porting it to the Switch.
right.
So I'm assuming maybe my guess would be that they're probably just doing this to the 3DS because the 3DS still prints money and they'll push that out there for 19.99. You can't beat that. It's been a couple years since it's come out. Great. And then they'll do the announcement for the port for Super Mario Maker.
Yeah. That was kind of what my thinking on it was. This would be a good push to try to sell
Yeah.
a few more copies and then announce the port, and
Oh, because
it would be a good segue into it as well. I mean,
right,
really.
yeah. No, and in my mind too, like there's no need for them to come out with a like Super Mario Maker. I mean, I guess kind of it could be Super Mario Maker 2 and maybe there's, different, you can get into the 3D element of stuff,
Yeah.
which would be kind of interesting. But when you take a Super Mario Maker, I mean, half the game is the fact that other people are making levels and then they're uploading them for you to try out. So it's kind of like one of
Right.
those things where it's like just I mean, it kind of builds itself out a little bit, and I don't
Yeah.
think there's really a need to come out the gate with a whole second sequel to that title already. So interesting, cool. I never thought we'd talk so much about Super Mario Maker, but we did it.
Yeah, here we are.
And did it. Um, New Xbox Game Pass games are coming. So starting January 17th, We Happy Few and the Lego Movie video game are going to be available. So super pumped about that. You can do no wrong with a Lego video game. It's a great game just to sit back, bash some baddies and just kind of, have a good time with it just casually. And We Happy Few was a little stunned about that because that hasn't been out that long.
No, but I don't. It didn't do nearly as well as what they were hoping for it to do by any means. So
really?
I'm not really. Yeah, I'm
I
not.
didn't keep on based on it. Did you see like stats on it or just kind of? I mean, I
I
didn't
don't
see
know.
much hype.
Well, I think the problem there was it got delayed quite a bit.
Oh, quite a bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a fucking year and a half, didn't there? Something crazy like that.
Yeah, over the course of like 2 or 3 different delays, yeah, it ended up being like a year and a half, 2 years later than what they originally announced. And then once it came out, a lot of people didn't like it. It probably sold well still because I mean there was still pre-orders and things like that. But once it came out, it did not do very well as far as reception. So I'm
damn.
not too surprised to see it come to Game Pass, but I don't know. I'd probably give it a try, but I don't.
Oh, for sure. I'll definitely give it a try too. I'm just not I don't know. This is the style of that game. I was kind of like, I'm okay.
The actual
upsetting,
the actual style of the game doesn't really bug me so much. It's more so the gameplay of it. It's just that's not the kind of game I usually get into.
Yeah, it's a shame because I mean they hyped the hell out of that thing.
Oh yeah,
like what 2 years ago, maybe even more.
Yeah, absolutely.
3 years ago,
I think it's been they started hyping up about 3 years ago, probably.
It was well before the Xbox One X.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Easily. Wow, that's crazy. Anyways, the other 2 games coming to Game Pass start January 24th, and that's Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Saints Row the Third, which I thought Saints Row the Third was a free. Yes, it was a Games with Gold at one point.
I'm pretty sure.
No, it was Saints Row Gat Out of Hell, or Gat Out of Hell, like a Gat gun or something like that.
Yeah.
whatever one that was. I don't know if that's Saints Row 3
I
or if
think
that's. Let me see. I
that
can tell you
was
immediately if the box are and all the
oh, that's
New Orleans Saints stuff
no,
comes up now.
I think Saints Row 4.
Yes, you are correct. Saints Row 4 was the one that was free through gold.
Yeah.
So Saints Row 3, I mean, that's the most popular Saints Row.
Right.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I've never been like the biggest fan of Saints Row.
I really liked the first and the second one. I really got into those and played those quite a bit,
I
but
think there's slapstick like humor and
yeah.
dirty humor, just kind of like it doesn't go too far for me. It's just kind of a thing where it's just like I don't find it funny at a certain point because I felt like they push it so much at a certain point that I'm like,
Right.
I don't know. But I mean, people love the hell out of it. That is, I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
bashing it. I just me personally, I'm just like, you know,
Yeah. I think the thing was they didn't really change much about the games going
right?
forward. I mean, as far as gameplay wise, you still had a lot of the same side missions and things like that from even the first one on. You know, they added a
Yeah,
few here and there, but yeah, it was something I had fun with. When like the second one came out, I played the first and the second one, but since then I haven't really gotten into them by any means. So
damn.
yeah, but still, I mean, the price is right, right?
Oh, absolutely. And Middle Earth: Shadow of Mordor. That's an
That's a lot of fun.
unreal deal. I'm
Yeah.
so pumped for that. I love that game. I had that on PlayStation, I believe.
Mhm.
Yes. On PS4, and ooh man, will get
It's a lot of
me
fun,
some
man.
Middle Earth.
That's one of the games that I can kind of play in spurts, though. I'll just
Mm-hmm.
play it
No,
and
it gets
then like take
repetitive.
a break and then and then come back and have a blast with it and just take a little break.
Cool. So we've got the smaller stories out of the way. Well, actually, before we get into the large story, I just want a quick breakout discussion of this because a couple weeks ago on the podcast, we discussed, I think a couple months ago now. Wow, holy crap, time moves by so quickly. We discussed XCloud on the Microsoft side and Game Pass and kind of what we think Game Pass is morphing into be. And we were right because Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella basically discussed today or the other day that xCloud is Xbox way of striving to build essentially a Netflix of games, a streaming platform for games through the Xbox ecosystem. So we were right on that. I think generally a lot of people thought that, and I think that they're on their way, maybe sooner than we think. The way that Satya Nadella is talking about it in his conference was that they were making huge leaps and strides, and that they foresee this being fairly quickly in the market,
Yeah,
which is quite interesting.
I think if I remember correctly, I didn't think it was going to be happening to that extent until like halfway through the
I
next
think we both
generation.
agreed to that. We both thought that they would like maybe baby step it and kind of
Yeah,
just acclimate people to it. But I think it's going to be a separate thing. I think you're going to have kind of like a couple bastard years where it's going to be like you have Game Pass and then you have Stream Pass as well, and you can
right.
choose what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then maybe it just all morphs into one, or hell, maybe it's just Game Pass and you get to choose whether you want to stream the game or you want to download it.
So kind of how PlayStation handles theirs, PS Now or whatever.
Yeah,
In a way, I
in a
mean,
way, yeah.
to an extent,
Well,
but
because I mean, you still got people that don't have like unlimited internet, right? They might have like a terabyte of data, and it's like, do you want to
right,
stream it? Well, if I just download it, it's downloaded, and then any online play is additional, but it's not nearly as much as if I'm going to stream the whole game.
right. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that. I mean, we went into detail on it, a while
Oh
back,
yeah,
but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Just because it's one of those things that I am not completely sure that.
or completely tilts the industry on its head.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not sure that. I don't know. There's a lot of people that play Xbox and are able to play online, but as
Mhm.
far as actually streaming an entire game, I don't know. I mean, you gotta have pretty solid internet to be able to do that. So it'd be interesting. I'm
Yeah, that's why I
excited
think
to
it's
see
going
what they come out with. I mean, It sounds like a great deal. If it's half as good as what Game Pass is, I imagine it should be great. I mean, there's a good chunk of good games in Game Pass.
Right.
So if they can bring that quality of games to this service, I mean, absolutely.
You know what I think is going to happen if streaming, which I mean, ultimately, I think we both agree streaming is going to be the way that it happens in the future.
Oh.
But I think what's going to come of that is a lot more free to play games.
Yeah.
Because probably. It's going to turn into, like we had mentioned in a couple of podcasts before, where basically the business model then essentially changes and it becomes like, how many hours has your game been streamed instead of, how many times has someone paid $60 for it, right? So your revenue on your games could possibly be lower, especially if, you're banking on Xbox because, it's not a very big player base console wise comparative to like PS4, which is like double.
Right.
And so when you sit there and you do that, like my mind was thinking about today, and it's like, well, if I'm a company, then I'm going to make a free to play game. And then any of that, the payment process where money is coming to me for something, whether it be an object in the game or just directly to me in the game, I'm going to want to control that payment ecosystem as a business. So if I take that out of the Xbox ecosystem and I put it into my own game and people can pay through that, then I'm going to make money off of it. And then also if they stream, I guess you can make money off of it as well. But I think that's what it's going to turn into.
Because I don't know that makes sense. I mean, honestly,
like I don't know how the hell an Assassin's Creed would make money.
No, yeah, there's gonna be.
I know how it makes money. I just don't know how it would make money the way it makes it now.
I think the biggest thing is basically along with what you're saying. I think microtransactions are going to be how these companies make money, which we've already started to see that. Obviously, I mean,
for sure,
Fortnite made crazy
way more
money
than they would have ever made if they just sold the Battle Royale as a $30 game.
Right? They took a failing game and then added Battle Royale, made it free to play, and then added a bunch of microtransactions in there, and it sells like crazy. I mean, it's insane.
It's absolutely insane, dude. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess we're both on the same lines of that. We'll just have to see kind of where that rolls out. But let's hit kind of the meat of today for the news that kind of hit Monday-ish, Tuesday-ish. Tuesday.
Yeah, it was Tuesday because it was after
something like that.
After our episode went up and all that. But yeah, so EA had a open world Star Wars game that they had been working on, and it has now been canceled. That game is no more, unfortunately. So this game was originally announced back in 2017 and was being developed at EA Vancouver. This game was announced around the same time that EA shut down Visceral Games, who had been developing a Star Wars game of their own. The Visceral was working on that Star Wars game, but even though they shut them down, that game is not actually the same game. They use from what I understand, they use some assets and things like that, but it was going to be a completely different game, and much on a much larger. Yeah, on a much larger scale. And to add even more Star Wars into the mix, even though the EA game is not being made, Respawn, which is the company behind Titanfall, they are actually releasing a Star Wars game this year. It's slated to release in fall of 2019. But even more Star Wars because why not? Right. Because it prints money. Rumor has it that EA is ditching this game due to its scale, but will be producing a smaller scale Star Wars game that may come out in late 2020. And the way they talk about it, they make it sound like it is going to be on the next console.
How do they talk about it?
It basically, EA has not really released anything, concrete. So a lot of this is from interviews with, I think the main one on this was the article I pulled some info from was Jason Schreier on Kotaku. But he basically said he has some sources that are very familiar with how EA works and with the company, and that supposedly they were talking about this other Star Wars game, and the way they talked about it was that it will be on the next generation. So
Wow.
I mean, to an extent, take it with a grain of salt, but
well, we kind of knew that stuff's coming out in 2020.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's not outside of the realm of possibility by any means. So,
right.
But yeah, this is pretty big because a lot of people were looking forward to this, even though EA has kind of fucked up some Star Wars games, to be honest. I mean, Battlefront 2 was definitely one of the most hated games for pretty much about a year
for the microtransactions.
Yeah.
And then even when we went back in and played it when it was super cheap, it was like $11 to pick that game up. Mm-hmm. And we went back in and we played it, and we both were just kind of like meh.
Yeah.
And we're huge Star Wars fans.
Right.
I fucking love the Battlefront series. I love that from PlayStation 2. I was so excited. Battlefront 1, when they redid it, I really enjoyed it. I really did. I thought there was some things missing in it. Yes, the space battles and stuff like that would have been nice. Certain things like that would have been great. But I still thought it did a great rendition of it. And it was just, there had been so much time graphically between, the quantum leap in graphics that we had for video games that it was just astounding to me being able to play it like that. And I had some great maps. And then Battlefront 2, it felt like the maps were just garbage.
They were terrible.
And it felt like the guns were just garbage too.
Yeah.
Like they were just spraying all over the place. And we were just like, oh, dude, like the one fucking map where I forget the planet, but the one that's like more jungle based. It's not like
that was the exact one I was thinking.
Not like an Endor, but whatever. Oh God, whatever that map is, I'll have to find it one day. But there's like no cover on that map, and it was like this weird linear map, and it was just this super weird.
You're talking about the one where you had to run towards those ships.
Yes.
Yeah, that was awful. You're running across a big open field, just getting fucking picked off. It was terrible.
Yep, it is terrible. But, so they ruined with that. But like, take this in. That's crazy. So they canceled this open world one. Then they also canceled that one that was going to come out in 2019. And then there's another game coming out in 2019 anyways. And then there's also one coming out in 2020. So they had fucking 4 Star Wars games.
Yeah.
In the works over the course of the next 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. That's a lot. And here's the thing. Do you think Disney had a hand in any of this by saying like maybe we'll slow your roll?
I don't know. That's
because it's done that with the movies.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think that Disney
would say, "Hey, hold on, we're diminishing the brand a bit. Like we're kind of just not diminishing, but kind of just like exhausting." Right, it's a better word.
I mean, the brand. You figure they own Marvel and they own Star Wars. Disney does.
LucasArts, yeah,
right, or LucasArts. Sorry. So. And like you said, we've seen it in the Star Wars movies. I think they're trying not to wear out their IPs and some of their big heavy hitters like that. We haven't seen it with Marvel yet. They're still
episode 10 comes out this year.
I believe so. Yes.
Yes, the very end, December 2019.
Yeah, so. But I mean, we haven't seen it with Marvel yet. I think they're still riding that train for as long as they can.
Well, we've seen. No, I'd say we've seen Marvel with the TV shows. I think
that's
when
true.
It's the movies, I think it's okay because when you have a movie like Black Panther come out, I mean, no one ever thought, 5, 6, 7 years ago that there'd ever be a friggin' Black Panther movie made,
right?
Or a Captain Marvel or an Ant-Man movie. No way. But I mean, they had those clusters of fans that would go watch it. But they've done like they went from like tier. Like, not to bash anyone's favorite superhero. If your favorite superhero is Ant-Man, that's awesome. All superheroes are great. But there are like tier A Marvel superheroes like, Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man. And then, tier B is like, oh shit. I mean, tier B is like Captain Marvel, Ant-Man, Black Panther. And then tier C is where you've got like Runaways and shit like that. You've got, like way smaller micro like fandom towards
the
TV stuff.
When you say tier, I mean it's not like a quality thing. It's just more where they fall in and how often they appear and things like that. I mean, like Ant-Man's kind of a big deal if you get really into it. I mean, the old school Ant-Man, not the new Ant-Man, but
Paul Rudd's great though.
Yeah, I love Paul Rudd.
Anything.
It's fantastic. But if you look at like Hank Pym, I mean, he was a big deal, and your Fantastic Four were big deals and things like that. Personally, I'm a huge Marvel fan. Huge Marvel fan. I hate Fantastic Four. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't enjoy them at all. Not in the comics. The movies have generally been pretty terrible. So
the movies have been absolutely horrendous, dude.
Yeah.
Remember like the first one by Fox?
Yeah.
Oh, where the Thing had like
they were bad. But no, I think I think Disney's stepping in, and I think they're definitely trying to cut back on some of the Star Wars things because fans are starting to show fatigue. I think. I mean, to come back full circle here. I mean, but I think a lot of fans are kind of telling them to step back, take a little bit of a break, and that's why we saw, we had Solo this past year, but it was kind of more your spin-off type things rather than still trying to continue, with Rogue One and The Last Jedi and stuff like that.
Rogue One is my favorite one. My favorite Star Wars movie of all time. Yeah, I think.
Really?
Yes. I thought Rogue One was fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, no,
we're great. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with Rogue One personally. I loved it. It was so cool to see. But yeah, you point out Solo, and I think the way that Disney has worked, at least in the last like 8 years since making these acquisitions and really really doing everything they possibly can with this IP, is that they just kind of figure like with Marvel, they're like, oh, it's Marvel. Some people just watch it. But that's not the case. Like, I mean, maybe going from tier A to tier B, that's kind of true. But for some of the TV shows, like not a lot of people are watching the Marvel TV shows. They're like, well, I'll just put the Marvel thing on there, would be good. Just like the Solo thing. It's like, do people really give a shit about Han Solo that much? Well, clearly not. And Disney just thought, wow, if we put, a Star Wars story or put Star Wars on there, people are going to go to the theater and go watch it. And they didn't because there's just too much Star Wars.
I think some of the like you're talking about with the tier B and stuff like that. Like you're a bigger Star Wars fan than I am.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge Marvel fan, so I get into all of that. And I've watched, the Netflix series and things like that. Pretty much all of them. I'm still watching some of them, trying to catch back up. But kind of what you're saying, like Daredevil was out of nowhere and it was beloved and just did fantastic. And then you had like Jessica Jones, and Jessica Jones season 1 was, interesting because of the characters. But then by the time you make it to, Luke Cage, everything started. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did very well in its first probably 2 or 3 seasons.
But I think that was because it was like one of the first Marvel shows to come out. People were just like, holy shit, Marvel on TV. Like, oh my God,
Well, and I think that's where the Netflix series are able to shine is because of like Punisher. They can be brutal, man. They can be absolutely as R-rated as they want, But I think like you're saying, you start tearing off into some of these other things like Luke Cage. Nobody liked Luke Cage. Let's be honest. It did not do well. Not the character, just the show. Probably because he's just not a super interesting character, and his enemies aren't very interesting and things like that. It's just, and then they tried to do Iron Fist. Iron Fist is something that works in comics, but once you translate it to TV, it doesn't do well. No. It's not fun to watch. No. It's weird, man. And I think that's exactly what we saw with Solo. Solo, personally, I didn't hate the movie. I didn't think it was
terrible.
It's not my favorite Star Wars movie by any means.
No, I thought it was definitely sitting down with like episode 1 and 2.
Ooh, that's hurtful. That's rough. But no, I agree. I mean, yeah.
I think that's better than being episode 1 or 3.
That's true. Yeah.
I think episode 2 is better than episode 3.
Yeah. Episode 2 was better than 3.
I just like the action.
But 3 was better than 1.
Oh, 1 is the worst.
1 is hands down the worst. But it's such a weird thing because too much of a good thing can become a bad thing. And I think the Star Wars is just getting beat into the ground right now with trying to release as much stuff as possible. And it's not like Star Wars ever really died. They just stopped making movies.
Yeah, they stopped
making for an extended period of time. But you still had, you had Clone Wars, you had things like that. I mean, Star Wars has been a force, ever since the very first Star Wars movie came out.
No pun intended, a force?
A force. I didn't even mean to do that.
I had to call it. Yeah.
But
I bet you definitely that EA got talked to by Disney, and Disney's just like, hold on, slow down.
Yeah.
And then I think you're going to see a lot of companies just kind of put shit on hold this year also, honestly, for video games. Just being like, if you can't get a game done this year and get it out like by, I don't know, like November-ish, October, November, I think you're going to see a lot of people just hold off till 2020 because everyone's just waiting for the new console.
Yeah, and that's what happens, at the end of these console life cycles. A lot of times, most of your bigger games are waiting to release on the new console. Sometimes they'll do like a dual release, where like we saw that when we first got the Xbox One, where we had games that release on both One and 360, and you'll always get that for a while. There's always that. Yeah, there's always that carryover, but at the same time, some companies are trying to be the first big game. They want to be the console seller, right? And Microsoft wants console sellers or sell. God dang.
Or they just want to make games to be on the market when it's not so diluted,
right?
Like,
so
I don't have something to pick. Like Rabbids.
Yeah,
Mario came out. Perfect fucking example where you're like, normally if it was now, you wouldn't go buy that game.
No, absolutely not.
Switch, you're like, okay, cool. I can get Mario, a Mario port, another Mario port, another Mario port. Okay, here's this actual game. Okay, cool. I'll go get that.
Yeah, and that's not a knock on Mario Rabbids by any means, because
it's a good game.
That was actually a fantastic game. It was very good. But that's exactly what it is. If you can release in those first couple months when people are starving for games, it's going to sell fantastic.
You think that kind of changes that now with Game Pass? You're gonna have backwards compatibility, so I mean, you just switch it over, I would presume.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and the way they set it up, they made it easy. It's basically just an emulator. I mean, and that's a fantastic way to go about it. But I guess that does change a lot. From now on, going into the next generation, we're gonna have all of the existing Game Pass games that are gonna be fine. And I think, as we've seen with backwards compatibility as it stands now on the Xbox, there is some time that they have to put into it, obviously, to port it over to an extent. Because otherwise we'd have the whole 360 library and the whole original Xbox library, but we don't, and I don't know how much work goes into it, but obviously you have to get it to run into the emulator that they have built into the backwards compatibility program. So I don't know what all that entails, but I don't imagine it's too terrible. Question.
I doubt it's no. Your answer is no.
Do you think it's more of just a trickle? They're just trying to keep a constant flow of new stuff coming out on that
for backwards compat, or
or do you think it's actually
like
limitations?
You mean 360 to Xbox One?
Yeah, as it stands now.
So I've done some work in the past for my job where I've done some work for the backwards compat program, and sometimes there's limitation. And they, from my understanding, they have a big queue of games that they want to get done for 360 to Xbox One, and they kind of just pick away at them.
Gotcha.
So there's some technical limitations to them, and kind of from my understanding, it's how the Xbox 360 system used to work in the way that those games were registered in for their IDs for the Xbox to recognize them versus now on Xbox One. So there's a little bit of finagling, but in some instances, it's pretty easy.
I gotcha. I was just curious about that. I
But
didn't
like if you
know.
notice first party, it's really easy for them because they can just emulate it. They don't have to worry legalities behind it. But a lot of the other stuff that's like third party, especially like third party and like duly licensed. So
Mm-hmm.
like let's say like a paintball game or something, and it's sponsored by some like paintball sponsor or whatever, some paintball company.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have to reach out to the original publisher of that and then figure out with that publisher if it's okay to go forward with that with the additional licensee that would be named after, and then get the original, you know, source if they can to that, and then run it through their machine that they do to get that going on Xbox One.
I
Because
gotcha.
the problem with Xbox 360 is there's so many fucking games for it, and a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
them were like licensing nightmares on top of licensing nightmare. Like you had like Rapala Fishing,
Right.
right? And it's like not only does the developer have the rights to that game, but also the publisher has some rights to that game, and then Rapala's name is also on it. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool, can't do that game. Or if fans want that game now, they have to hunt everything down. So they do a really good job at it.
Oh yeah.
At,
They've
at,
done a
at
fantastic
hunting
job.
it down for it. But yeah, substance to this for the EA stuff. Do you like? Do we really want an open world Star Wars game? I'm assuming open world would mean MMO.
Yeah, and I know it is desperately time for a new Star Wars MMO. I mean, because
Knights
currently
of the
we
Old
have
Republic.
Knights of the Old Republic, but
Yeah.
and that's a beloved game. But I
Oh, for
think
sure.
it's definitely showing its age. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's definitely
Why
showing
not
its
just
age. What's that?
why not just plus it? Why not just bring it into the 21st century? Maybe that's what they're doing. Shit.
I mean, they could be, yeah, but I think I don't know. I don't know if it will be an MMO. I almost take it as a large open world like single player game. That's the way I
Like a
envisioned
campaign?
it. Yeah.
Like a
Think
big I mean,
like
that would be great to get something like that. I would
right.
enjoy that.
Dude,
Just a
even
one
with all
player
the
game.
Star Wars
It'd be
stuff
great.
that and the burnout there, I am actually really excited to see what Respawn does because
Mhm.
Titanfall, I loved Titanfall and
And that'd
Titanfall
be
2.
great too, because there's so many vehicles in the Star Wars universe, and I feel like
Mhm.
that team can really utilize vehicles. Obviously, the mechs in Titanfall, but
Right.
they could really make you feel like you're commanding or controlling something, which is something that's been absolutely lacking in the
Yeah.
Battlefront series. Like a
Oh yeah.
tank feels like you're driving like a rubber duck around.
Right.
But you're just like, "Meh, meh, meh, meh."
But I mean, you figure they made games where you literally battle giant titans, and then they get to make a game where maybe you get to control an AT-AT or anything. I mean, anything from the Star Wars universe is pretty much right up their alley, and I think they knock it out of the park. I think they do an amazing job on it.
And so you talked about the visceral stuff before, which that one got shut down. What was the hint? Was there any hints behind what that was?
Um, it was pretty vague. I don't even think it had really been fully announced yet. I think it was just more of
What could it have
a
been?
I'm not sure. This oh shit, you know what? I think I'm wrong. I think I'm mixing up a couple stories here. I think if I remember correctly, the Visceral Games was going by the code name Ragtag question mark,
Oh boy.
and it was supposed to be like you're kind of like a wanderer in the Star Wars universe, and you kind of can band up
So you're
with
like trying to find yourself
right. And so I think
if you
that was
want
kind
to
of the
be
route
on
they wanted
like
to go.
if you want to be a Sith or a Jedi.
I don't even know if it got into that. I don't even think it got that far. I think it was more
Man,
like
I feel like when they do this with Star Wars, when they try to and like people argue that like, well, it's an IP they can grow into whatever they want to do. But like I think Star Wars is still established as just being lightsabers and guns and battles.
no,
That when you try to do these things where it's like, well, he's gonna find his
but
way.
he's just a regular guy.
Jim is
Yeah.
just a regular guy until one day Qui-Gon Jinn knocks on his door and says, "Hi, your metachlorian levels are quite high. I found it in this off of this Subway sandwich that you threw in your trash this morning before the garbage man caught it." No, you need to come with me on an adventure. Like I just don't understand why they try to make it not deep, because it is deep, but not deep as like Star Trek or anything like that. But I don't know why they try to dilute what makes Star Wars so much. You know, like that's probably why Han Solo didn't do so good.
Yeah, because it was very much
with a space pistol.
Yeah,
that's
very
it.
much.
That's it.
It's essentially following.
Yeah, it's a bodyguard with a space pistol, and he also steals a bunch of shit. And he has a ship, and the ship is old as fuck comparative to every other thing, except for obviously during that time period in certain parts of the movies, you know, it's a decent ship. But in the mainstream timeline that people have grown up with, it's a shitty ship.
Yeah.
And the prequels don't even show the fucking ship. So it's like, I just don't understand why they try to get so deep with them and why they try to make it like, this is Star Wars. No, Star Wars is episode 10 coming out in December. That's what Star Wars is.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm sorry. I fully agree with what you're saying. The whole thing that made Star Wars magical for when it came out was it was such a far-fetched idea. You know, the whole idea of people using the Force and having lightsabers and, you know, just all these
people's minds and shit.
All these crazy things that were just unique, and that's why it's beloved, not because of, you know, the normal everyday stories. Like people want to see people getting fucking lightsaber battles, man.
People want to see different lightsabers, like when Kylo Ren had lightsabers that have exhaust fans on it because it's too overpowered for him to even use that lightsaber. That's fucking sick.
Yeah,
you know,
awesome.
When Count Dooku in fucking episode 2 pulls out this like angled looking like dildo looking like lightsaber thing or whatever. People lost their mind, right? Mace Windu, his fucking lightsaber is purple. Holy shit, right?
Fuck yeah.
Yoda's green. You go back to classic colors, and then like most of the prequels, you're using like blues and shit. You know, like it's, you know, that's what people want to see. Fucking General Grievous, 4 fucking arms, 4 lightsabers. That's what people want to see.
Right. They want to see the crazy shit.
That's what Star Wars is. They don't want to see. Yeah, I don't know.
Like I said, I think Respawn will do a good job. I think they'll be able to capture the essence of what makes Star Wars without trying to make it too plain. I mean, fuck, they made a game literally about battling giant mechs, which is fucking awesome. And on top of that, you can still be, you could be out of your mech and you feel like the smallest thing in the entire world. And they captured that so beautifully and did it so well with fast-paced, you know, gunplay and things like that. I really think Respawn will do a fantastic job. As far as EA doing their, you know, their own thing and it just being an EA game, I don't know. I'm not super excited for that, but I don't know, man. It's one of those things that it kind of would have been interesting to see what Visceral had, but at the same time,
it's always interesting to see things that were never
right.
We're either never going to find out about this fucking thing, or we're going to find out like 5 years from now when an ex-employee leaves there and is like, "Hey, check it out. This is what it was supposed to be."
Right. Here's a demo that I
saved on. And everyone's like, "Oh shit," you know.
Here's a demo I saved on my hard drive and left at a medieval times.
Pulling up Pitchford. Oh god. My last thing on it is I would say I want to bet you that there's, and you're gonna cringe, but I want to bet you there's gonna be a Star Wars Battle Royale.
It's inevitable. It's gonna happen.
Think Battlefront 3 is gonna happen? That game did really bad.
I don't think so.
They spent a lot of money on that game.
I think this is the route that they're going to be going. This isn't just a side thing. I think this other EA game or this other Star Wars smaller scale, probably a single player like
Battlefront. And I don't know if I want the DICE team to do it. I just want the problem when the DICE team does it. I love the DICE team. They're so good at what they do with the Battlefield series. But it's like when you play that game, it just fucking feels like Battlefield reskinned.
That's exactly it. It's akin to
I'm not meaning like, that's a terrible fucking thing. I just mean like
it doesn't feel unique.
The way a
all.
stormtrooper runs, he runs exactly like a fucking soldier in Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
And it's
I
just,
think,
I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. I think it's beautiful, absolutely stunning. The
it
map
looked
is
fantastic.
gorgeous,
Absolutely.
but it's just like, fuck, man. Like, it's almost got to be a little bit of a different art style, or it's like, I get it. You've got these great, fighting mechanics, but a modern day fighter, or a World War One, FPS game is not going to be, remotely the same style as like, a Star Wars feel to it. Like when you shoot a laser or you're running as a stormtrooper, like a stormtrooper can't fucking run. Not great.
Right. I think I think you nailed it on the head there. I think it felt like a reskin. I mean, akin to like, hey, you can be, Master Chief in Minecraft or whatever like that. It's just a skin of the same game. And it's something that I want them to pull off, but at the same time, I don't think that they're I don't think they'll continue it with the Battlefront series by any means. I think they're onto different things.
Well, I'm upset by that, Brody.
But at the same time, I mean, the Battlefront that they came out with was not the same Battlefront that came out so many years ago. It's still a very different game. I mean, for the most part, it's.
Fucking, I hit my keyboard.
Notes here.
I hit my keyboard by accident, and it just totally fucked up a bunch of words to you. And it's like I couldn't write a message, but it was like cryptic.
But yeah, no, we'll see. We'll see what we get. I'm sure there's going to be a couple Star Wars games that come out in the next couple of years. Not next year, but
Prepare to get Star Wars out.
Absolutely.
Oh God. Last piece of news before we go. This is kind of an odd one. Nintendo Russia is keeping their boss after is keeping their boss employed after an investigation into his workplace conduct. So Yasha Hadaji has been in hot water until fairly recently due to an investigation that started last November. The investigation began after a video surfaced that showed the Nintendo boss stomping and swearing during Mario Kart 8 Deluxe live stream. I'm sorry. Fans used this video and other issues, such as the ending of sales of Pokemon cards in Russia and failure to produce stock to fill pre-orders, to push Nintendo into conducting this investigation. While this may not have been enough on its own, allegations of workplace harassment also appeared and forced Nintendo of Europe's hand. Nintendo issued the statements in response to the investigation. They said that Mr. Hadaji fully acknowledges that his conduct related to him losing his temper is a breach of our code of conduct, and expresses his remorse to all those affected by it. He has received a formal warning and has issued an apology letter to all Nintendo Russia employees. Our top priority is to ensure a safe and supportive working environment for all employees. It's because of these values that we committed to a full and thorough investigation into each of the allegations against Mr. Hadaji. Going forward, Nintendo of Europe will be providing more resources to Nintendo Russia to support their efforts to bring Nintendo products and experiences to Russian players. We want to ensure that the conduct of all of our employees is in line with Nintendo's company values, and we remain committed to upholding these standards in the future. Russia. You're weird. Yeah. Nintendo and Russia, you're weird. Fuck,
I didn't even.
How funny. Just stomping and swearing during Mario Kart 8 Deluxe live stream. That's so funny.
For whatever reason, I never even really thought of the idea of there being like a Nintendo Russia, right? Like, no, you always hear of, Nintendo Japan, Nintendo Europe, and Nintendo of America, and that's really all you ever hear of.
Yeah, it sounds like a really small division because they're not even selling Pokemon cards in Russia,
right?
Which is crazy,
is really crazy, absolutely. Because you can't go anywhere and not see Pokemon cards right now.
Gas station, you can see Pokemon
they have them everywhere.
Yes.
This was very Russian.
This is kind of like that fun little story at the very end. of the podcast is like, here's a little crazy Russian story. Here's a little crazy thing in the gaming world that happened that's not leaving a hard drive at a medieval times.
And ruining our
exit
end of the podcast.
Exactly. I'm glad you bring that up, because today's podcast was brought to you by Audible, and you get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial by heading on over to audibletrial.com/diggity. Audiobooks are a huge thing right now. I think honestly it's kind of the future. People don't really, is it bad to say people don't have time for books? I guess it's more just people don't. You got to carry a fucking book in your bag and it sucks. And you can just have it all on your phone. You can have a bunch of them. So you can head on over to audibletrial.com/diggity and get your free audiobook download and 30-day free trial. As always, thank you so much to the Amazon team and the Audible team at Amazon for sponsoring the podcast. We super duper appreciate it. We'd also super duper appreciate it if you follow us on Twitter or Instagram at Diggity Podcast. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube if you're watching the video podcast right now. Good God, I hate saying this every single time, but you got to fit in with YouTube. Smash that like button, yo, fam. And hit the subscribe button. After you hit the subscribe button, you got to hit the little bell, because if you hit the subscribe button, it does nothing but add our name into the left side of your YouTube page. And then sometimes you might be watching, say you're watching a video of someone pop a pimple. Then it might be like, hey, here's a recommended video, episode like 4 of Diggity Podcast. Would you like to watch this? When you hit the bell, you actually get notifications of when we've uploaded new videos, when we're going live, or when we're uploading different comments or trying to have a discussion on our YouTube community. So hit us up there, Diggity Gaming on YouTube. You can follow me on Xbox. My gamer tag is Maple Jeff, and Brody's, yours is
Luscious Brody.
Hell yeah. Leave the podcast review. Also leave comments in this video, guys, for the video podcast. Helps us out a lot. One, does some great things for us. It raises our spirits because we get to see people having a chat about video games. Someone actually posted a comment on one of our vids the other day, and it definitely made my day.
It was fantastic. It's
great. Makes our day, guys. Makes our day.
Absolutely.
Also get feedback so we can make the show better, both on the audio side of things on the podcast and also on the video side. And it spreads a good word of Diggity. And for the Tuesday show, guys, we will see you next time.